different conic sections. So today is the 4th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we looked at circle, we looked at parabola, we looked at ellipse, and hyperbola. I don't have a problem with giving you these formulas on the test. I don't have a problem with that, because I don't think that this should be in this course. I think it should be in Calc 2. So formulas will be given. On test 4 and the final exam. Okay, so let's start with the circle. Let's just refresh our memory on those formulas. X minus h everything squared plus y minus k everything squared equals r squared. This is what you're going to have on a piece of paper. I'll add it in. Then parabola. X squared equals 4py, or y squared equals 4py. I am not going to ask you the coordinates of the psi. I'm not going to ask you the directrix. I think that these are extra details that when you need them in optics or physics, you will learn them. All I want you to be able to, at this point in time, to identify and graph such a parabola. Okay? So ellipse, x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. And hyperbola, x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. Or, there is a second one here, y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equals 1. On page 756, I'm looking at problems 23 through 34. They look very difficult. I don't know if you have the book or not, but all these look just awful. Okay, let's start with, let's say 24 on 756. 9x squared minus 36x plus 4y squared equals 0. What I'm interested in really is to identify, be able to identify which conic section it is, if it's a circle, if it, oh, I should have read the problem. Complete the square to determine whether the equation represents an ellipse, a parabola, a hyperbola, or a degenerate conic. In other words, we'll see. None of the above. I don't know why here the circle is not added in. It should have been. Well, so I'm guessing there is no circle, but it should be listed. If the graph is an ellipse, find. I'm not going to ask you to do that. If it is a parabola, fine. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but I'm going to ask you to graph them. If it is a hyperbola, find such and such. Then sketch the graph. So no details, but I like to see the graph. Okay. So I'm looking at this equation, and I'm already told that I have to complete the square. However, I cannot complete the square on 9x squared minus 36x because the leading coefficient is not 1. The leading coefficient has to be 1. So what I will do, I will factor out 9 just from these first two. So this is x squared minus 4x. And plus 4y squared. Y squared is alone, so leave it alone for a moment. Okay, so that was my first step. Now my next step is to complete the square here inside. What do I need to do to complete the square with something that is x squared minus 4x? I have to add the particular quantity and subtract it, which means I'm adding 0, which I'm allowed to. Adding 0 doesn't change anything. So the middle coefficient is -4. I divide it by 2. I get -2. I square -2. What do I get when I square -2? 4. So this is what I need to add and subtract. I'm looking for my colors. Okay, so I'm adding 4 and I'm subtracting 4. Right there, locally. But now I have 9, I have something squared, I have -4, and I have 4y squared. This is this. These 3 have to be here. So what do I have here? Very good. Now I will have to distribute the 9 to these two terms right here in front. So 9 x minus 2 squared minus 36 plus 4y squared equals 0. I complete the square with x and I complete the square with y. It's a lie. Complete the square with y was already there. So now what do I do? What would you recommend? So I have something with x squared. I have something with y squared. They're both positive, right? So it cannot, I don't want to go cross it out, but not this, and definitely not this. So I'm hoping that this is the case, right? Because I have possibly this, but they didn't even mention it, so it can't be this. It cannot be the circle. They didn't list it there. So I'm hoping that this is the case. So what do I do to make it look like that? First of all, I have to separate the terms with x squared and y squared from the free term. So what will you tell me to do? Yes, move 36. So 9 x minus 2 squared plus 4y squared equals 36. But now I know that this has to be 1. What should I do next? By 36. So then I have 9 x minus 2 squared over 36 plus 4y squared over 36 equals 1. I can see the shape already. So what do I need to do next? Yes, I'll simplify by 9 and I'll simplify by 4. So finally, I have this. What does it resemble? It's not exactly the same, but actually it is. It's definitely not this. It's not a circle, because a circle does not have denominators. And yes, you can say, how come that this is not a circle? It's not a circle because a circle cannot have other than 1 in front. 1 in front of x minus h, and 1 in front of whatever squared with y squared. And this can be any number. So I will never be able to make a 1 in here. So that cannot be a circle. It doesn't look like this. It cannot be set up like this as x squared 4py and y squared 4py. It cannot be a parabola. It cannot be a hyperbola because a hyperbola requires a minus, either in front of y squared or in front of x squared. So that leaves just the ellipse. Okay. Now, this ellipse is centered where? What do I subtract from x? What do I subtract from x? Is there anything subtracted from x? No. Is there anything subtracted from y? No. So what is the center? Yes. However, what will be the center of this ellipse? 2, 0. That's the only difference. Okay? I just want to graph it. Assuming the center were 0, 0. Just assume for a moment that the center is 0, 0. So I don't have x minus 2 here. 4 goes with x. So it will be, don't graph this one. It's just, I will graph it and shift it after that. Y goes with 3. So this would be the ellipse if it were centered at the origin. But the center for this one is at 2, 0, right here. This is the center, which means this. I went too far. Any questions? Any questions? Let's look at 30. X squared minus 4x minus 8y plus 9 equals 0. Now, by simply looking at this list, this does not have a y squared. It has an x squared, but it doesn't have a y squared. That eliminates what from here? Exactly. It doesn't have, this has to have a y squared. This has to have a y squared. This has to have a y squared. So I'm expecting that. Perfect. Excellent. Good. What do I do? Yes. So from these two, I have no choice but factor out a 4. Because I need to complete the square with y, with x. Good. I factor out 4, and I have x squared minus 1, x. So the middle coefficient is -1. I have to divide it by 2. I have to square 1/2. But I have to do it right here inside. So I add and subtract. I cannot do it outside because of this number. If I didn't have this number, I could have added 1/4 here and 1/4 there. But I can't because I have this. So then 4, x squared minus x plus 1/4 minus 1/4 minus 8y plus 9 is 0. Remember, this is 0. I did not change the problem. By adding 1/4 and subtracting 1/4, I did not change anything. But now I have to have these three terms here, and then minus 1/4 with a bracket, minus 8y plus 9 equals 0. What do I have here inside after I complete the square? Very good. But now I have to distribute. Please do not make the mistake to distribute 4 inside parentheses. You cannot do that. So you can only distribute 4 outside here and then to negative 1/4. Can anyone dictate what I should write?
4 times x minus a half.
1. Very good. But then 4 times negative 1/4 is 1 minus 8y plus 9 is 0. So this is 4 x minus 1/2 squared plus 8 equals 8y. And looking back, I either have to solve for something that has x squared or something that has y squared, which is not the case here. So I have to solve for something that has x squared. So actually, I should have moved a to the other side and divide by 4. So 4 x minus 1/2 squared equals 8y minus 8, and divide both sides by 4, and it's done. So this is 2y minus 2. And this is the problem. However, since this is a normal parabola, what I would do before I graph it, I will solve for y. Yes, I set it up the way they wanted us to set it up. Yes, it's a parabola. I identified it. But now I will solve for y in order to graph it. So I will say 2y equals x minus 1/2 squared, but plus 2, and I will divide by 2. So y equals 1/2 x minus 1/2 squared plus 1. What is the vertex? Because we know this. Y equals 1/2 x minus 1/2 squared plus 1. What will be this vertex? 1/2, 1. Very good. And it opens upward or downward? Minimum. Exactly. So you know how to graph this. There is no secret there. So this is 1/2 and 1. The axis of symmetry is x equals 1/2. And when x is 0, I have 1/4, 1/8 plus 1. So something like this. That's good enough. Okay, let's look at 34. Caught my eye with that 300 in there. What will that be? I have no idea. Any questions? So there is an x squared plus 4y squared plus 20x minus 40y plus 300 equals 0. Anything can happen here. Well, in this particular problem equation, I have x squared and x, and I also have y squared and y. So obviously, I need to complete 2 squares, one with x and one with y. I like the one with x. Why? Because I don't have to factor out anything. The leading coefficient is 1. So I take 20 aside, I divide it by 2, I get 10, so I have 100, right? What I'm going to do is, because I have the 300 here, I'm going to borrow. So I'm going to say this and this and this are here. What? Okay? So now I have to struggle here with this. I have to factor out a 4. I have y squared minus 10y, and I have plus 200 equals 0. Now I complete the square in here with 10 as the middle coefficient. I divide it by 2 is 5, and I square a 5, and I get 25. So right here inside, I have to add and subtract 25. So x plus 10 squared plus 4. Y squared minus 10y plus 25 minus 25 plus 200 equals 0. X plus 10 squared plus 4. Now, these 3 have to be here. And what will that be? X minus 5, right? I'm sorry, of course. Thank you. Thank you. Y minus 5. Thank you. Good. What do I do next? Yes. Plus 4 outside. Carefully. Do not put it in. You cannot do that. Minus 100 plus 200 equals 0. And then I have x plus 10 squared plus 4y minus 5 squared. This is 100. When I move it to the other side, I get this. Even if I divide both sides by negative 100 to get 1 here, I will get minus in front of the first term and minus in front of the second term. Is there such a conic section? No. So we'll say does not exist. No conic. Impossible. Doesn't fit any of the categories. I cannot have negative on both. I can have 1 here, but not negative on both. Just one or the other. In the case of a hyperbola. So this is no conic. Good. Let's look at 32. So if you remember, when we reviewed complete the square on solving quadratic equations, I said that's not a method that we use for quadratic equations. That method is used for something else. And this is that something else, okay, to identify conic sections. 32, we have x squared minus y squared equals 10, x minus y plus 1. What will you do first? Absolutely. I have to 10x minus 10y plus 1. Perfect. What will you do next? Well, x squared cannot be separated from x. Y squared cannot be separated from y. So what will you recommend? Move them, sure. So x squared minus 10x minus y squared plus 10y equals 1. I put them close to their counterparts. So now I'm trying to complete this square. What should I do to both sides? Because it has a positive leading coefficient, which is and 1. Negative 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So I have to add here 25 and here 25. So what will this be with all 3 terms? X minus 5 squared. But now I have a little bit of a problem with y squared. I have to factor negative 1. Factor out negative 1. Yes,
plus 25.
25 and minus 25. So this is x minus 5 squared minus. Careful now. What is this?
What?
And minus 25 equals 26. Yes, x minus 5 squared minus y minus 5 squared plus 25 equals 26. X minus 5 squared minus y minus 5 squared equals 1. I like this. I go through my list. That's why I don't like giving formulas. I have to go back. Okay, so I'm going through the list. Definitely it's not a parabola. Definitely it's not a circle, because the circle doesn't have minus. There is a minus in there. As definitely there is, it's not an ellipse. But what can it be? It's a hyperbola. So it's this one is centered at the origin. Where will this one be centered at?
5, 5.
5, 5
Okay, so there it's assuming that the denominator is 1.
is 1.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the box, when I graph this, the box will be 1, 1, 1, 1. If it were centered at the origin, it would look like this, right? But it's centered at 5, 5. So one, two, three, four, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. So 1, 1, 1, 1. This will be the box. These will be the asymptotes. And this will be the hyperbola. (27) or 29, they also look awful. Would you like to? And this is all I need from this chapter. If you identify the conic section, I'm fine. If you identify the equation. You're going to have only one question from this.
Chapter 11 or just
Just chapter 11, just one question.
2% each?
We did not have any quizzes and stuff, so just one question from these 4.
So like Steve said, most of it's going to be like log and natural.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to start reviewing in a minute. So I think we should do 1 more, 2 more. You decide.
Let's do 27.
27. 4x squared plus 25y squared minus 24x plus 250y plus 561. Okay, let's work on this individually for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's a lot of work, right? It appears to be a lot of work. Remember, you have to group these. And you have to group these. Need more time? Can anyone get me started? So I factor out 4. I cannot complete the square if the leading coefficient is not 1, right? So I factor out 4 here, and I factor out 25 from the other two. I cannot complete the square if the leading coefficient is not 1. Please remember that. Yes, it's a good method, whatever, but if the leading coefficient is not 1, I can't. So then 4. And then I have x squared minus 6x. I have to add something and subtract the same thing. What am I adding and what am I subtracting? 9. I'm adding 9 and subtracting 9. Then I have 25. I have y squared plus 10y. I have to add and subtract. 25, indeed. Plus 561. Perfect. Now I have to rearrange. I have to write what this is, which is, very good, and minus 9 plus 25. I have to write what this equals to. Very good. And then minus 25, and then plus 561 equals 0. What is the next step now? Yes, but careful, not inside parentheses. Okay, very good. So 4 minus 3 squared minus 36 plus 25 y plus 5 squared minus 625 plus 561 equals 0. After this one, I'd like to do one more problem with a circle. Okay, so you don't think that you're not going to potentially have a circle there. Okay, so this will stay, and now negative 625 minus 36 plus 561. Okay, so I have to move it to the other side. Good. So 4x minus 3 squared plus 25 y plus 5 squared equals 100. I did not calculate this. It's 100? Okay. Sarah, is that okay? Okay, good. Now, I go through my list. Obviously, it cannot be this. Obviously, it cannot be this. Obviously, it cannot be this. Why? Because both have positive. So it cannot be this. It cannot be a hyperbola. It must be an ellipse. Okay, good. So then what do I have to divide by for sure? 100. So I have 4x minus 3 squared over 100 plus 25 y plus 5 squared over 100 equals 1. Perfect. Now, simplify. So I have 25 here and 4 here. So now x minus 3 squared over 25 plus y plus 5 squared over 4 equals 1. This ellipse is not centered at the origin, but it's centered at, perfect, 3, negative 5. So, and A is 5 and B is 2. Three comma negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the center. To the left and to the right, I have 5. So this is 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up and down 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is the ellipse having that equation. One more, back to 1.8. On page 94, please choose from 103 through 108 on 94. Any problem you want. And then I'd like to go back to chapter 4.
106.
Let's do 106. X squared plus y squared plus 1/2 x plus 2y plus 1 over 16 equals 0. Okay, so let's work on this for 2 minutes. Not a difficult situation. Not as difficult as the previous one because the leading coefficient on both x squared and y squared is 1. It's okay to borrow if that's an option. If you can use 1 over 16, you don't have to. Okay? So what would you add and subtract? In this case, because the leading coefficient is 1, I can add to both sides, which is the same thing, though. For x.
Added 116.
Good, but it's here. I'm going to use it. It's not a mistake if you add and subtract to both sides. So then I have x plus 1/4. What will I do with y?
1 plus 1.
Yes. So then now 1, 2, 3 plus
Y minus 1, so plus 1 squared.
equals 1. Center
Is negative 1, negative 1.
radius. It's the square root of 1. Good. Let's graph it. You will have to trust my 1/4 or negative 1/4. Sorry about that. I'm assuming that that's 1/4. So, and here's 1. And here's 1. And here's 1. That's the circle whose equation is given in the problem, centered at negative 1/4 comma negative 1 with a radius of 1. So that's all you're going to have from this chapter. I'm going to list the formulas. All I want you to complete the square, say it's this, and graph it. I would recommend redo all those problems, that set of problems, from that page.
You said there's just one on the test.
Just one, yes. One question. And I will, potentially, I will put it to choose from as an extra credit. You don't have to choose it, but it's not going to be a difficult problem. As long as you remember how to complete the square and the leading coefficient must be 1, you'll be fine. Okay, on page 354, from problem 5 through 106. Starting from page 354. I choose, you choose, I choose, you choose. And I would like to do a little bit from each set, because these are all problems we looked at. So I would like to, bless you, I would like to start with 48. So log, common log, of 4x cubed divided by y squared x minus 1 to the 5th. We're asked to expand. So you're going to have something to expand. Can anyone tell us what to do? There are 3 properties of log. How do I start? Very good. So log 4x cubed minus log y squared x minus 1 to the 5th. Excellent. I applied the quotient rule, the quotient property. Good. Now, we already know if it comes from the numerator, and it's a product, of course, it will have plus outside. If it comes from a denominator, it will have minus outside. So, log it's a product. 4 plus, very good.
Minus log y squared plus.
Careful, it comes from the denominator. I will have to eventually distribute -1. So log x minus 1 to the 5th. Good. Now, final step. So I use the product rule now. So log 4, and then plus 3 log x minus, very good, minus, please do not attempt to do anything to log x minus 1. You cannot simplify that. We can only simplify log applied to a product, a ratio, or a power. This is done. No one can simplify that. Perfect. Let's go to with condensing. Would you like to choose from 51 through 56? So I marked down expanding. If you want more expanding, you'll tell me. But I want to go through everything, and then we'll come back. 51 through 56, I want to condense. Let's condense. Fifty-four. 54 we have log base 5 of 2 plus log base 5 of x plus 1 minus 1/3 log base 5 of 3x plus 7. And by the way, everything has to be the same base, has to have the same base, otherwise we cannot use those properties. Going back into condensing. Okay? How do I condense this? It has to be log base 5. Okay, how do I condense it? Excellent. Excellent. That's it. Log base 5 of 2 times x plus 1. It has minus in front. It has 1/3, which has to be the cube root. And it has minus in front. It has to go to the denominator. Excellent. Any questions here? Equations, please. We need more than one here in this set. 57 through 68. Okay, I'll choose the most difficult one, I think. 61. 4 raised to 1 minus x equals 3 raised to 2x plus 5. I consider this the most difficult is because after you apply log to both sides, it looks weird and it may confuse you. That's why I think it's difficult. 4 and 3 cannot be presented with the same base. I have to apply a mechanism that brings the power down, and there is only one function that does that. Which function is that? It must be the inverse function of the exponential. Which function is the inverse of the exponential? Log. It doesn't matter which log you apply. It's easier for me to write ln than log. So ln is for lazy people. So 1 minus x in parentheses natural log 4 equals 2x plus 5 in parentheses natural log 3. One more time, if you omit parentheses here, this, if you forget to put these parentheses, you're changing the problem. So please don't forget. Okay, now I have to do what? I have to get to x. Distribute. I'm distributing this fancy number, but it's just a simple number. Natural log 4 minus x natural log 4 equals 2x natural log 3 plus 5 natural log 3. I'm solving for x. What should I do next? Any suggestions?
Put the x terms on one side and then
Very good. Because both will be negative, I prefer moving this term here and moving this term here. It doesn't matter, really. Natural log 4 minus 5 natural log 3 equals x natural log 4 plus 2x natural log 3. Now I have to do something to the right-hand side because those are not like terms. Factor out what?
X.
Very good. So natural log 4 plus 2 natural log 3, natural log 4 minus 5 natural log 3. So x equals, and it's done. What does x equal to?
Natural log 4 minus 5 times natural log 3 over natural log 3 plus natural log 4.
If you want to approximate this, you have to be very careful. You must put parentheses around the top and parentheses around the denominator, otherwise you will not get the correct answer if you choose to punch this in the graphing calculator. Okay.
for the test, do you want us to?
I won't, no, no. But something like this may come up in a word problem. And you can say the number of people such and such is this. Yeah, very good. Why not? Let's look at 63. X squared e to 2x plus 2x e to 2x equals 8e to 2x. Any suggestions here?
We should factor out 8 for 2x.
Of course. So first I'll move this term, set everything equal to 0, and I will factor out e to 2x. X squared plus 2x minus 8. Excellent. So when a product is 0, product of two factors is 0, there are two options. One option is that e to the x is 0, right? The other option is that x squared plus 2x minus 8 is 0. But I want to graph e to the x, e to 2x. Here's the graph of e to 2x. Increasing on all its domain or decreasing on all its domain? Yes, because the base is greater than 1. So this is e to 2x. And 0 is this. Y equals 0, and this is y equals e to 2x. Sorry. So how many solutions will this equation have? This one.
Oh, that one.
Impossible. E to 2x is never 0. It may approach 0 as x approaches negative infinity, but they will never cross. Good. So we have the second equation, which has a polynomial that factors into x plus 4 and x minus 2. So the options are negative 4 and 2. Questions? Questions? 67. Log base 8 of x plus 5 minus log base 8 of x minus 2 equals 1. Please remember that when you see a log equation, you must remember to check or state domain. It's part of the problem. You choose the method you like, and you don't have to be consistent. Use the same method all the time, but you have to choose one or the other. I prefer domain because I know I will be rushing to something else and forget to go back and check. So x plus 5 is greater than 0, and x minus 2 must be greater than 0, because this is the domain of a log function. Log cannot be applied to 0 or to negative numbers. I've seen it in your last quiz. So x greater than negative 5 and x greater than 2. Let's graph this, because I think it wasn't clear to everyone, and I apologize for that. So when I graph greater than negative 5, I have to graph this. When I graph greater than 2, I have to graph this. And in this situation, in your quizzes, I saw domain being greater than negative 5. No, we have to choose the common domain where we see both colors, where I see pink and green. Both logs have to exist at the same time. So then the common domain is x greater than 2. not greater than -5. So now I should condense. Can anyone tell us the condensed form of the left-hand side?
Log base 8 x plus 5 over x minus 2.
Equals 1. And I know that this is equivalent to an exponential equation, which is easier to solve, I think. You can also, you have other ways and other methods, so it's up to you. But if we change this into an exponential equation, what will I write?
H equals h to the 1 equals x plus 5.
Very good. And this is a proportion. Nice, because in a proportion I have a method that is quite nice. So 8x minus 16 must equal x plus 5. This is linear. I subtract x, I get 7x. I add 16, I get 21. Therefore, x must be 3. So I go back here. Is this true? I don't forget because I worked hard on this, but I may forget if I don't write this domain. So I'll say yes. Okay. Use the change of base formula to evaluate the log. Please choose 83 through 86. Okay, 84. Log base 7 of 3 over 4. This is a ratio of 2 logs. Now you choose which ones. Common log, which is log, or natural log, which is ln. Okay, very good. So how do I write it? It's a ratio of natural log over natural log. The top is from the number, and the bottom is from the previous base. Top is from the number, and the denominator is applied to the previous base. So now I will approximate. And I need to use a calculator on this. And I have natural log, in parentheses 3 over 4, and divided by natural log 7. And it appears that it's negative 0.1478. I want to check my work. How do I check?
Just type in the initial. You should get.
How do I check? This is log base 7 of 3/4. I claim it's this number.
7 to the negative 1.4.
Yes. To the previous answer. When I click enter, what should I get?
That's 175.
I should get?
175.
Exactly. Very good. Okay, I would like to review our problems. Okay, let's look at the stray cat population, 95 on 355. So the stray cat population in a small town grows exponentially. In 1999, the town had 30, and the relative growth rate was 15% per year. Find the function that models the stray cat population n of t. That's part A. Find n of t after t years. together with the conic sections, I am going to list this. So I'm going to put this on that list of formulas. So can anyone give us the model?
The MT equals N0 or
Yes, which is 30. E raised to,
0.15T.
very good. This is it. Excellent. Part B. Find the projected population after 4 years. What do I need to find? Very good. So I punch it in. 30 times E raised to 30. I'm sorry, 0.15 times 4. 54 cats. Although you can say, why don't you round it up? I can't. Part C. Find the number of years required for the stray cat population to reach 500. What do I have to write?
500 equals 30E to 0.52.
What'll be the first step? Mandatory first step. Divide both sides by 30. Next step. Yes. So natural log of 50 over 3 must equal 0.15 t. Therefore, t equals
Natural log 50 over 3 divided by 52.
very good. Careful how we put it in. So we have natural log in parentheses 30, no, not 30, 50 divided by 3, sorry. And divided by 0.15. So roughly, with years I can round up. With people and cats I cannot. So approximately T, approximately 19 years. Since 1999. Very good. 99. The half-life of radium-226, half-life 1,590 years. If a sample has a mass, part A, if a sample has a mass of 150 milligrams, find a function that models the mass that remains after t years. Yes, you will have a model like this on the formula sheet. What do I have to determine first? One more time, the question is asking, if a sample has a mass of 150, that's my initial mass, find a function that models the mass that remains after t years. So I am given m0. This is 150 milligrams. But I am given the half-life. What does that mean? So let's write this down in words. Given half-life, let's say 1590 years. I'm using this example. I know that the point 1590 comma m0 over 2 is given. So when the time is 1590, the initial mass, in this case is given 150, but it may or may not be given. The mass 1590 years from today, the mass that we have right here will, hopefully not, because it's radioactive, will become half of it 1590 years from today. So every time I'm given the half-life, I know I'm given this point. I will plug in this point in the problem to find k. So plug this point in the model, which is this equation, to find k. Okay, so please tell me how to write, how to plug in this point in here. Since we are given 150, which is the initial mass, you can say that the point is 1590, comma 75. So I'm plugging this point in the model. Please tell me what to write. Right? Yes? Yes. To negative. How much is t? I have to put t. I don't have k, but I have t. Exactly. Equals. Exactly. Perfect. Excellent. So this is what I have to plug in when I'm given the half-life. Yes, there is a formula in your book. If you want to use the formula, you can. But formulas will go away. But the rationale, I think it's clear. I'm plugging in this point. 75 must equal 150 e to negative 1590 years times k. Okay, what do I do now? I have to. Yes, which will be 1/2, right? 75 divided by 50, I know it has to be 1/2. So now I apply natural log. Negative 1590k equals natural log 0.5. So k equals natural log 0.5 over negative 1590. That will give us the radioactive decay rate. So natural log 0.5 divided by, in parentheses, negative 1590 and close. And press enter. Okay, careful. K, approximately. So e to negative 4.1230 4359. And you can say, where do I stop? How many digits? I don't know. You can stop here if you want. I'm fine. I just wanted to put more digits, but 4 digits after the decimal point is enough. So now the model. Can anyone dictate the model to us? In part A, we have the model. M of t equals to negative. Exactly, that's the model. Part B, find the mass that will remain after 1,000 years. That's part B. What do I need to find? So 150. I'm going to use the previous answer here. So 150. So don't delete stuff when you're calculating these things because it's really useful. Minus, and I just recalled the previous answer. And I multiply it by 1,000. And close. So roughly 97 milligrams. So in 1,000 years, the 150 decay to 97. Part C. After how many years will only 50 milligram remain? You see the pattern. They're all the same, these problems here. After how many years will only 50 milligrams remain? What do I have to write? Very good. Obviously, I have to divide by 150. So this is 1/3 equals e to negative 0.00435 t. Natural log of 1/3, negative 0.0004359 t. So finally, natural log of 1/3, negative 0.0004359. So natural log, in parentheses 1 divided by 3, and divide this by, in parentheses, negative 0.1234359. So approximately 2,520 years. Any questions? We're going to look at some graphs in a minute, but I'd like to also look at problem 94. Determine the annual percentage yield, which is APY, for the given nominal annual interest rate. So we are given interest rate K, 3.2%, which is 0.032. And the compounding frequency is monthly. How many months or in a year? Good. I will add the following formula. That is the APY. I have the interest, I have N, but I don't have AMP. I'm just thinking, I'm looking back to see if they connected it to a particular A and P. Because they're not giving A and P. Why are they giving A and P? I will add the formula in. So in this case, I have to use R, but it doesn't matter. R or K, same thing. Radioactive decay. Yeah, it's probably in a previous section. Let me see. It's not in the 4.5. It could be in 4.1. Okay, I found it on page 309. On page 309 at the top, 57 and 58, the APY. Find the annual percentage yield for an investment that earns 8% per year compounded monthly. Annual percentage yield for an investment, okay. They just want us to consider, I see. They are not giving us A and P. What is A is the accumulated value. P is what we deposit or what we borrow, the principal. So, of course, we want to consider T equals 1 year. And the formula for the simple interest is this. Let me just show you that example. They're just comparing it. They're comparing to the two formulas. Okay, so find the annual percentage yield for an investment that earns interest at a rate of 6% per year. We have 3.2% compounded daily. Daily means 365. After 1 year, principal P, whatever, it's not given, will grow to the amount A equals P, 1, R, as we have in the formula. 1 plus R over N to NT. So 1 plus the interest divided by, in this case, 365 raised to 365. And they're calculating this number. We're going to calculate that in a minute. The formula for simple interest is this. Comparing, we see that 1 plus R, this, equals this. So R is that. Thus, the annual percentage yield is 6.183%. So they could have given us A and P, but okay. So what they are asking us to do in this problem is calculate this number and compare it to this and find R. It's a little twisted, but anyway. So let's do that. So A equals P, 1 plus 0.032 divided by 12 raised to 12 times 1, which is 12. So I'm going to calculate this number, which is 1 plus 0.032 divided by 12. Close the parenthesis. Oh, I didn't put a parenthesis at the beginning. Sorry. So 1 plus 0.032 divided by 12 in parentheses, power in parentheses, you know me, 12. So this is 1 point, so it's P multiplied by 1.03247. And now what they wanted us to do is just compare 1 plus R to this, 1.03247. So the APY is the difference. So it's 0.3247, 0.03247. So it's very close. I like to look at the other problem. There is one other identical problem, 93. So the interest rate is 4.25% and it's daily. So N equals 365. So A equals P, 1 plus 0.0425 over 365 raised to 365 because T is 1 year. So I calculate now. 1 plus 0.0425 divide, I thought I put parentheses, but maybe I didn't. Okay. Divided by 365. Close the parenthesis and the power. 365. Okay. So it's 1.0. So A equals P multiplied by 1.04341. And now I compare what I said, the equation 1 plus R equals 1.04341. So R equals 0.4341. The APY should not be very different from the annual interest rate. And I'm just curious to go, I want to go back and see how big of a difference did they get here. So their percentage was 6%. Yeah, and this was 6.183. Makes sense. Actually, when you get a loan, like a mortgage, for example, the difference between the annual interest rate and what they are charging you or us should not be very big. If it is the difference at the second digit or the first digit after the decimal point, it's fine. But if it's more than that, if it's the difference is on the if it's not 4.3 will be okay. But if it's 5.1, they're overcharging us. Okay. Okay, back to more problems. Let's look at a couple of graphs. In domain, yes, oh, absolutely. I don't want to forget that. 17 through 20. 17 through 20, please choose. Those are very, very important. 18, very good. So, g of x log of 2 plus x minus x squared. Perfect. What do I have to write and solve? So please add to that list. Expanding, condensing equations of both types, domain, change of base formula, and word problems. What do I have to write and solve? I'm hoping the test 4 will not take more than an hour, because you're not going to have a lot. I'm hoping. We'll see.
Just factoring out everything so long.
Right, but I have to write something first. What do I have to write? Yes, but I have to write something, solve, and then get the domain. What do I have to write and solve? We did it on all log equations. All log equations. Right, but in this case I have only one function. So what do I have to write? I have to write something, solve it, and then I will find the domain. But if I don't write this and solve it, I will never be able to find the domain. What do I have to write? What do we know about log? It's not a friendly function. We wish it were, but it's not. So I have to write something that I need to solve. Say it again. Yes, but what? Exactly. 2 plus x minus x squared. This is the inequality that will give us the domain. Of course, I don't like it because... Why don't I like it? What will I do? Not with a negative leading coefficient, and not if it's not in descending order. So, yes. Yes. Absolutely. Good. So then how do I factor this? Very good. And remember that chart, if you want to use it. You don't have to. Which number is going to the chart? Or to the chart at the top of the chart? Very good. Both are linear functions with a positive slope. Both will look like this, coming from negative and going to positive. So what is the sign on the first subinterval? In the middle and outside? Good. What sign do I want to pick? Good. The product is negative here, which means? Yes. This is the domain. Negative 1, 2. Perfect. Good. So please choose another domain or a graph. Graphs are between 5 and 16. And there is nothing else I can think of from this chapter. That's all we did. There is nothing else. So another domain or graphs. Okay, I will choose 12 on 354. F of x, 3 plus log base 5 of x plus 4. I will use transformations. I don't know what they want. Sketch the graph, state the domain, range, and asymptote. Okay, I will use transformations first. We'll see what I come up with. But of course, I have to determine the domain. What will be the domain of this function? And then we'll list the transformations. So we know where the function exists. What do I have to write and solve in order to get the domain of f of x?
X plus 4 is
Absolutely. So x must be greater than -4. Domain is -4 to infinity. So I'm jumping ahead for a second. X equals -4 must be the vertical asymptote. And there is nothing here, because the domain is between -4 and infinity. So that I established from the beginning. So now what is the base function? What will be the first function I have to graph? Which function was used to determine this? X cubed? No. The square root of x? No. The absolute value of x? No. But which function? E to the x? No. Log base 5 of x, of course. Log base 5 of x is the base function. If I want to graph it, here it is. Greater than 1, increasing or decreasing? Right. So this will be log base 5 of x. Good. Then you'll tell me to do what to this graph? What will be the next step?
shift it to the left.
Exactly. Log base 5 of x plus 4. So I'm going to graph all these. So this is log base 5 of x. This point moves 4 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. Okay, now what is the third step and final step?
3 is about 3.
Exactly. So that reference point that I have there will go 1, 2, 3 up right here. So here's the graph. Log base 5 of x plus 4 plus 3. Assuming I ask you to find the x and y intercepts, what would you do? How will I find the x-intercept? What do I have to do?
Simplify to 0.
Very good. So 3 plus log base 5 of x plus 4 is 0. What will be the first step? Excellent. Log base 5 of x plus 4 equals -3. I know that this is equivalent to a nice equation that I know how to solve,
5 is equal to 30.
to the -3.
Oh,
5 to -3 equals x plus 4, or x equals -4 plus 5 to -3, which is 1 over 125. So -4 plus 5 raised to -3. I got -3.992. Can anyone give us the ordered pair, which is this right here? Can anyone dictate this ordered pair?
-3.992.
Excellent. Now I want to determine the y-intercept. How do I determine the y-intercept?
So x to 0.
Good. So f of 0 is log base 5 of 4 plus 3. I don't know how to do this in these calculators. I have to change the base. Natural log 4 over natural log 5 plus 3. So I think if you go to math, I think these new calculators have that option. 4 divided by natural log 5, and then plus 3. 3.86. Did it make sense? 3.86. When I go back, this is, I graphed it too far up. So if this is 4, it should have been a little bit lower. But, and I can make the correction now. So what is the y-intercept? Yes. Any questions? I honestly cannot think of anything other than just graphing an exponential function. For example, let's say 8. G of x equals 5 to negative x minus 5. But this is, careful, this is the same with 1/5 to the x minus 5. Base function here. Say it again.
1/5 to the x.
Yes, very good. Which is it a decreasing on all its domain or increasing on all its domain? Decreasing, right? Because the base is less than 1. And it crosses at 1. Of course, 0, 1. Okay, and number 2. What transformation is number 2? Down 5. I have to move the horizontal asymptote. This was the horizontal asymptote. Where do I move it to? Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I can graph the function, moving this point accordingly. And this will be g of x. Like before, I would like to determine the x and y intercepts. And then I'll stop. How do I find the x-intercept? We do have one more homework to turn in. One more. Just one. I didn't assign yet for next week, right? No, we have one more homework. And I would like you to turn it in on Monday before the test. And I'll give you solutions like I did some time ago. So we can discuss mistakes. And because I like you to see the solutions before the test. So you have 6 questions. Where was which problem was the last one? Oh, yeah, no, we didn't have word problems. No, some word problems and 1 or 2 conic sections. Okay, how do I find the x-intercept? Okay, so 5 to negative x minus 5 equals 0. What do I do? Yes, 5 to negative x must equal 5. Careful, I'm not dividing by 5, I'm not simplifying. 2 numbers are equal and they have the same base. What has to happen to their exponents? Yes, so negative x must equal 1, so x equals negative 1. So I'm way out. Okay, so it should be like this, right here. So this is negative 1, 0. I already know the y-intercept, but let's determine it. How do I get the y-intercept? X equal to 0. So how much is g of 0? 5 raised to 0. 1. 1 minus 5. Negative 4. So I knew this one because I used it as a reference point. 0, comma, negative 4. There is not going to be anything extra than what you saw today. But if you only redo these 5, 10, 6, 12 problems, it's not going to be enough. I have to go back to the end of the chapter and do more problems around the ones we did, the odd number problems. Or I think they have the answers to all of them at the end. Please redo all quizzes. Please redo your homework, at least. And go back to your notes. Please fill out the survey if you want to.